All right, turn to page 129. Remember, on Monday we finished with Long John Silver is playing both sides. Because he told Jim, I got your back, you got mine. Tit for tat, right? And then 5 minutes later, what does he say Jim is? A hostage. And Jim's like, what? You and I just made a deal, and here you are. I'm a hostage? So he's playing both sides. They went to sleep that night, and Jim's like, he's playing both sides. I killed the guy. That was kind of weird. And I almost died a second ago when Tom tried to kill me, Tom Morgan. And now we're waking up the next morning on chapter 30. On Parole, it's called. I was wakened, indeed, we were all awakened, for I could see even the sentinel shake himself together from where he had fallen against the doorpost by a clear, hearty voice hailing us from the margin of the wood. Who's the sentinel? Who's the guard? Who did he set out? Long John Silver?
Morgan.
No, not Morgan.
It was the guy, George Merritt.
Yeah, he made George, right? He's like, thanks for trying to overthrow me as captain. You got the night watch. Well, he was sleeping. And then somebody yells out from the woods. Blockhouse ahoy! Here's the doctor! And the doctor it was. Although I was glad to hear the sound, yet my gladness was not without admixture. I remember with confusion my insubordinate and stealthy conduct. And when I saw where it had brought me among the companions and surrounded by what dangers, I felt ashamed to look him in the face. Jim is in the stockade, stuck with the pirates. You ever been at home and you'd kind of forgotten about all the stupid things you'd done, and then your mom or dad comes home and you're like, oh, I got to deal with this. He just heard Dr. Livesey's voice, like, I ditched everybody. Now here I am. He must have risen in the dark, for the day had hardly come. And when I ran to a loophole and looked out, I saw him standing like Silver once before, up to mid-leg in a creeping vapor. Remember, Long John Silver had done flag a truce, and there was that mist below him. But now, when you look down, it's not Long John Silver, it's Dr. Livesey standing there with his doctor bag, like, doctor's here. Here, doctor! Top of the morning to you, sir! Cried Silver, awake and beaming with good nature in a moment. Bright and early to be sure, and it's the early bird, as the saying goes, that gets the rations. George, shake up your timbers, son, and help Dr. Livesey over to ship's side. All are doing well, your patience was, all well and merry. So he pattered on, standing on the hilltop, with his crutch under his elbow, and one hand under the side of on the side of the log house, quite the old Long John, in manner, voice, and expression. We've quite a surprise for you too, sir. We've a little stranger here. A new boarder and lodger, sir. Looking fit and tight as a fiddle. Slept like a supercargo, he did. Right alongside of old Long John. Stem to stem he was, all night. Says, hey, guess what? We've got a new guy here. Dr. Livesey was by this time across the stockade and pretty near the cook. And I could hear the alteration in his voice as he said, Not Jim. The very Jim ever was, said Silver. And the doctor stopped outright, although he did not speak, and it was some seconds before he seemed able to move on. Well, well, he said at last, duty first and pleasure afterwards, as you might have said yourself, Silver. Let us overhaul these patients of yours. A moment afterwards he had entered the blockhouse, and with one grim nod to me, proceeded with his work among the sick. Dr. Livesey is actually coming to take care of the sick guys. And he's walking in here like, hey, how's it going? Nice to see you, buddy. Oh yeah, that guy had that bandaged head. It was fresh bandages, and Long John Silver was like, you're getting taken care of by a great doctor. Don't you realize I'm actually helping you guys? With those 4 arguments that he had made of why he should still be the captain and how he didn't mess everything up. And so now we're seeing it come to fruition. Dr. Livesey's here to take care of him. He seemed under no apprehension, though he must have known that his life among these treacherous demons depended on a hair. And he rattled on to his patients as if he were paying an ordinary professional visit in a quiet English family. His manner, I suppose, reacted on the men, for they behaved to him as if nothing had occurred, as if he were still ship's doctor, in still faithful hands before the mast. "You're doing well, my friend," he said to the fellow with the bandage head, "and if ever in a person had a close shave, it was you. Your head must be hard as iron. Oh, well, George, how goes it? You're a pretty colour. Certainly, what colour is he? George Mary?
Yellow.
Yellowish. He's got the yellow fever or malaria, right? Why, your liver, man, is upside down. Did you take that medicine? Did he take his medicine, men? Aye, aye, sir, he took it, sure enough, returned Morgan. Because, you see, I am Mutineer's doctor, or prisoner doctor, as I prefer to call it, says Dr. Livesey in his pleasantest way. I make it a point of honour not to lose a man for King George, God bless him, and the gallows. He says, guess what, guys? I consider you my prisoner, guys, and I want you to be as healthy as possible for when we have you hung. Oh. The rogues looked at each other, but swallowed the home thrust in silence. "Dick don't feel well, sir," said one. "Don't he?" replied the doctor. "Well, step up here, Dick, and let me see your tongue." "Now, I should be surprised if he did. The man's tongue is fit to frighten the French. Another fever." "Ah, there," said Morgan, "that comes of spoiling Bibles." "That come, as you call it, of being horrid asses," retorted the doctor, "and not having a sense enough to know honest air from poison, and the dry land from a vile pestiferous slough." You've got Tom Morgan saying, you cut up your Bible, you have malaria. It's like, shut up. The reason you are sick is because you're morons. Why would you sleep in a swamp? I think it most probable, though, of course, it's only opinion, that you'll have the deuce to pay before you get that malaria out of your systems. Camp in a bog, would you, Silver? I'm surprised at you. You're less a fool than many, take you as all round, but you don't appear to me to have the rudiment of a notion of the rules of health. Well, he added, after he had dosed them round, and they had taken his prescriptions with really laughable humility, more like charity schoolchildren than blood-guilty mutineers and pirates. "Well, that's done for today, and now I should wish to have a talk with that boy, please." And he nodded his head in my direction, carelessly. George Mary was at the door, spitting and sputtering over some bad-tasted medicine. But at this first word of the doctor's proposal, he swung round with a deep flush and cried, "Nah!" and swore. Silver struck a barrel with his open hand. "Silence!" he roared, and looked about him positively like a lion. "Doctor," he went on in his usual tones, "I was a-thinking of that, knowing as you had a fancy for the boy. We're all humbly grateful for your kindness, as you see, and puts faith in you and takes the drugs down like that much grog. And I take it, I've found a way as'll suit all. Hawkins, you'll give me your word of honour as a young gentleman. For a young gentleman you are, and although poor born, your word of honour not to slip your cable. It's like, hey, you won't run off, will you? You're a good man, right, Noah? You're a good man." I readily gave my pledge. I'm like, "I'll do it, I won't run." "Then, doctor," said Sylvia, "you'll just step outside of that stockade. Once you're there, you'll bring the boy down on the inside. And I reckon you can, I'll bring the boy down on the inside, and I reckon you can yawn through the spars. Good day to you, sir, and all your duties to the squire and Captain Smollett." Says, "You go climb over the fence, and then I'll bring Jim down so he can't run off. All right?" The explosion of disapproval, which nothing but Silver's black looks had restrained, broke out immediately the doctor had left the house. Silver was roundly accused of playing double, of trying to make a separate peace for himself, and of sacrificing the interests of the accomplices and victims. Wait a minute, they're like, "Hey, you're playing both sides. You're just trying to make a deal with him." And Jim's like, "That is what you're doing. You're playing both sides. The guys are calling him out." And that was, in one word, the identical exact thing that he was doing. It seemed so obvious in this case that I could not imagine how he was to turn their anger. But he was twice the man the rest were, and his last night's victory had given him a huge preponderance on their minds. He called them all fools and dolts, you can imagine, said it was necessary I should talk to the doctor, fluttered the chart in their faces, and asked if they could afford to break the treaty the very day they were bound for treasure hunting. Guys, I've done all this for you. The doctor's taking care of you. We've got the chart to find the treasure. You gotta trust me. This is gonna help us. We've gotta keep doing everything we can. No, by thunder, he cried. It's a must break the treaty when the time comes. Till then, I'll gammon that doctor if I oil his boots with brandy. You gotta know how to play politics, boys. Then he bade them to get the fire lit, stalked out upon his crutch, and with his hand on my shoulder, leaving them in disarray and silenced by his volubility rather than they were convinced, he says, "Slow, lad, slow. They might round about upon us in the twinkling of an eye. We were seen to hurry." Very deliberately then, we did advance across the sand to where the doctor awaited us on the other side of the stockade. And as soon as we were within easy speaking distance, Silver stopped. "You'll make note of this here also, Doctor, and I will tell you I saved his life. You're to post for it too, a man like that. Doctor, when a man's steering as near the wind as me, playing truck father with the last breath in his body, why, you wouldn't think it too much, mayhap, to give him one good word. You please bear in mind, it's not my life only now, it's the boys in the bargain. You'll speak me fair, Doctor. Give me a bit of hope to go on for the sake of mercy." Silver was a changed man. Once he was out there and his back to his friends in the blockhouse, his cheeks seemed to have fallen in. His voice trembled. Never was a soul more dead and earnest. It's like, wait a minute, didn't you just tell those guys that you're doing this on purpose? And now with me and the doctor, you're Mr. Scaredy Pants. "Why, John, you're not afraid?" asked Dr. Livesey. "Doctor, I'm no coward now. Well, not so much." And he snapped his fingers. "If I was, I wouldn't say it. But I own up fairly, on the shakes upon me for the gallows. I don't want to be hung. You're a good man and true. Never seen a better man. You'll not forget what I done good. Not any more than you'll forget the bad. I know. And I step aside here, see here, and leave you and Jim alone. And you'll put that down for me too, for it's a long stretch at that. It's like, look, here's another good thing I'm doing, man. Please help me out. Look, I'm going to let you guys talk. And I'm just going to hobble my way over here, just sit here and watch. I can't even hear what you're saying." So saying, he stepped back a little way till he was out of earshot, and there sat down upon a tree stump and began to whistle, spinning around now and again upon his seat, so to command sight sometimes of me and the doctor, sometimes of his unruly ruffians, as they went to and fro in the sand, between the fire, which they were busy rekindling, and the house from which they brought forth the pork and bread to make the breakfast.